Welcome to More Than Renovating, a Renovate and real estate podcast. Our founder, Belinda Smith, talks to industry experts to provide you with the knowledge and information you need to make renovating for love and profit your reality. Belinda will also chat to some of her Renovation Mastery members who are just everyday people doing extraordinary things, following their passions in the renovation and property space. So, let's jump straight into the episode. Enjoy.
Hi everyone, I'm Belinda Smith from Renovate and Real Estate. Welcome to this podcast, More Than Renovating. You know me guys, it is more about ourselves and the process of renovating and all of the things that surround renovating that makes it a really special property strategy. And today I'm really happy to bring you Joesph Rossi. Joesph Rossi is from the National Property Group, which is or has a fabulous research tool in relation to property. So let's get stuck in, Joe, and find out about you and find out about the National Property Group.
Thank you.
We were chatting just before. I always chat to people before we go live, but we were just chatting before. You've done some renovation in the past, so tell me a little bit about that and your love of property. Full stop.
Wow. Well, look, not only have I been in the property industry for probably 35 years, but I've renovated over those years and flipped property. Being in the data game, it sort of made sense that we took advantage of all those insights. But really, I've done small residential and semis, mainly terraces. I live in the inner west of Sydney, so it's they're tight little houses that you can renovate and move on. I've done 2 side ones and 2 where I've lived and then turned over. So, and I'm on one now. I bought it's really interesting, Belinda, because people say, don't get passionate about where you're doing the renovation. It doesn't matter as long as you can make the money. But I seem to love this suburb and I know it so well. It's sort of like, I've done it 3 times in the same suburb, right? So I'm doing a shop now, a corner shop. It hasn't been a shop for 40 years, but it still looks like a shop and it's on the corner. I'm doing a granny flat at the back and I'm renovating and it looks like an old terrace. You can imagine the awning around the corner shop with a lattice on one side. So I'm going to keep the heritage part of it. And hopefully I'm thinking because I'm getting a bit aged now, so it's closer to the shops and the coffee and the restaurants. So I might just move down there and sell the one in the burbs, right?
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Might go and you might move into your reno.
It's interesting that passion you have around, and we were talking about it earlier, right?
Yeah, look, my son's looking in that same area. The character of those homes, they're very heartfelt, those homes.
Yeah.
They feel warm. There's history in those homes and
That's
they're
right.
convenience, you're right, with all of the local shops and bits and pieces. So great spot to be in Sydney.
You do need the passion, though, because they can be really hard to renovate sometimes. You sort of open a can of worms and you think, oh, my God, what have I done to myself? There's not one wall that's straight.
And you pay a lot for them in the first place. So it's very difficult to pay that much money for them and walk in there and see how poor the floor is or that there might be a damp issue. You have to be.
That's right. That's
very, very common in those homes, but they're gorgeous homes. And, there's plenty of room for profit with the uplift of those homes because they're super popular when they're renovated. And a lot of people love to move into fully renovated homes. So, very exciting. I have to come around and knock on your door, give you a mark out of 10 for your
please. I'll let you know when it's
finished. Make you nervous?
Not at all. No.
Good. It's not meant to. So it's really, thank you for coming on today. It's really nice to have you on board. And I particularly like that you have a history in renovation because when we're talking about National Property Group and the data, then you get what we're looking for, the types of things we're searching for when we're using that data. So let's get stuck in. Who is National Property Group and where did it all begin for them?
Sure. Look, I don't know how far to take you back because personally I've been in data since 1987 where I had a small business that went to the councils, got the microfiche, typed it all up and sold it to real estate agents so they could do their comparables. And this is 1987, and we sold it on floppy disks. If a lot of people hopefully will remember what they are, because it's gone. We shouldn't admit to it, Belinda.
I think I've still got some in a box.
So this notion of data has been around for such a long time. And one of the things that National Property Group has those roots, and it comes from an organisation called Estate Agents Cooperative, EAC. And they used to, it was a real cooperative of agents within New South Wales that basically helped them gather data, use the Realtor magazine to advertise properties. This is pre-internet.
Yes.
But during that time, it collected all that data, and they came out with a platform called Red Square back in the late 90s, when the internet and the whole communication process started to bloom, right? 96, I think the first internet sort of started to come out. They had a modem system that basically shared that data. And they also were one of the first in Australia to have a multi-list service. So, you know, again, this is going back historically, but it's important because when you look about the longevity of data collection and what data you have and what you don't have, it's important, right? When you get to a property, how much data can you have? So in New South Wales, that's really quite pertinent because of this estate agents cooperative. Now, if you've worked with real estate agent, and anyone in the industry of renovation has,
yes,
you know that they're a very interesting character.
So nice. Hi to all of the real estate agents listening. We love you.
Yep. So it was a bit like herding cats, the cooperative, because obviously it was not for profit. There needed to be investment in the platform because it was a clunky old platform, very good, but a clunky old platform that had lots of data, but you had to be sort of a rusted on user, if you know what I mean by that.
Yes.
And of course, so MPG, the founder of MPG, managed to, buy the data platform off EAC. So all the data came across, and he invested millions of dollars creating the new platform, which basically takes all that data and creates an environment where it's easy and quick to get your data.
So you are so right, because I've been investing in property for a long, long time. The first home that I bought to renovate was 1986. So, you know, I've been on that journey. I could not believe when Google Earth came along and I could just have a look from my computer at properties at that kind of detail, with that kind of detail, without actually having to get in the car and drive or ask someone to send you photos. Like the world's changed. And it's made it easier for us to pull a whole bunch of information before we actually get into a car or get on the ground.
Look, the important thing is the properties you don't buy rather than the properties you do buy, right? And filtering out those properties. And look, and I think, the process, if I come back to the history of it, is what we've tried to build is something that you can get in and look at all the different parts of the property. So when we look at, we spoke about the suburb that I enjoy in the inner west. First, you need an overall, I call it a helicopter view of the suburb, right? What are the demographics? If I'm renovating to rent, as an example, you hold and rent, you need to know the graphics of the demographics of what sort of rental is it? Is it homeowners or rentals? Am I going to sell again? So all those things are pertinent to you making a good decision, right? Then what's the market been doing over the last 5 to 10 years? Is it been going up? Is it flatlining? What's going on? So that's that helicopter view. And as an investor or a renovator, you need to be able to jump from one suburb to the other really quite quickly and get those views, right? And most platforms will give you that, right? But what I think what I'm spruiking now is not just my platform, but those specific data platforms. Rather than going to realestate.com, jumping in and getting some information and then running out, because they're trying to get you into a portal and just sell you property, right?
Yes, well, that's their thing. They're a property advertising platform.
That's exactly right. So using these very bespoke platforms, what they're all trying to do is get all those pieces of information together in one place, and not have you have 10 tabs open, trying to work from one to the other, and then you want one report that puts it all together for you, right?
Yeah, so for renovators, just to cut down the amount of time it takes wandering all around the place, and we all know you've renovated so far, so we understand the importance of finding a really good location and the right property. That's right. If you're buying the wrong area, you're pretty well stuffed right from the start. So that selection, it's time to spend some time on a quality site to dig out all of that right information before you start to go and visit properties on foot.
Yeah. And look, these platforms are relatively inexpensive compared to the investment you're making, right? Yeah. So if you're going to spend, $1 million or whatever the price is, we're on a suburb you're in, the few $100 it costs you to have this platform while you're in that investment process is money well spent, and it's tax deductible as well. So it's such a small portion of the overall cost that you need to be there. And I suppose coming back to National Property Group, we saw a real opening in the market, because you've got this duopoly of the incumbents, and we saw this nice niche market where if we just built a few good tools, and an example of these tools are things like being able to identify splitter blocks, right? How nice is it to know that, hey, this block is actually on 2 titles, and you could actually do a mini development of a duplex or 2 houses, or know that that there's a frontage. And they're the subtle differences that MPG will bring to the table as far as how you search and find those properties. You mentioned, how do you find a property? It's not just what's on the market. Sometimes you have to go outside of that and look for those particular properties.
Yeah, and I'm always telling my guys to look for properties that have, I call it opportunities, so something else. And so splitter blocks, or somewhere where you can subdivide, or a really nice block where you can perhaps do a dual lock, even just add a granny flat.
That's
so
right.
It is all about having the information at your fingertips where you can do some research. And if you're going to buy one place, one lot of stamp duty, one lot of investment energy, it might as well be an absolute cracker.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're dead right.
Yeah. And so how does National Property Data Group really differ from the rest? What is its distinct advantage, do you think?
I think one, we really pride ourselves on what we call a derived information, right? So, and I spoke about the splitter blocks. That information is sort of there when you're looking, but what we do is we actually take the titles and then the lot and DPs and make it searchable. Right. The second thing is that not many of the platforms actually gives you the frontage. Now, when you go in, you actually see the block size, but they don't actually give you the frontage. So getting that is really quite important, because again, that's all about, what am I going to do? Do I get this tiny frontage and it's really long, but what is the frontage and how do I find it? So we give you these really subtle search capabilities, and we call it our elastic search, or derived information. So we take the maps, we take the block sizes, we derive the information that we're looking for, splitter blocks and frontage, and then allow you to actually filter and create these really quite nice search or save searches that you can say, okay, well, look, I'm really waiting to do a development in Toongabbie. I'm waiting on a frontage that's at least 15 meters.
15 meters. It's a golden number. Yes.
So they're those subtle difference that we believe developer, and why a lot of developer groups are jumping on board with us, Because look, if you look at data, there are three core components of where everybody gets their data. One is the valuer general, right? And that's in each jurisdiction. And that gives you the settled sales, the sales history, and the sale dates of the property and the address of the property. Then you have laid on top of that is the listing or portal data, and that's the current market information. We call it CMI or on the market, right? And that layers the flavors of the property. It gives you the photographs, it gives you the pillows that you spoke about earlier on. It does all of that. It layers that so you get really good insights. And then what they do is they add third-party data points. So one of the things that we're doing, and I'm hoping it comes out in mid-April, is climate valuation. So we all know about bushfires now and floods, right? So we actually have a flag on the property, or we'll have the flag on the property that says, hey, this may be affected by climate now and in the future for 5 years or 10 years. And then if you need more information, you might buy a report. So that's why they're giving us the data. They'll sell their climate information. Another one where you can buy is things like, it's a product called Lot Search.
Yeah.
So this is all about, I bought a property, but oh my God, two doors down the road, there was a service station 5 years ago, and I'm sitting on a contaminated property.
Yes.
And if someone does their homework, which you haven't, that you're not going to be able to sell it for the money you thought you could. So these are real things that when you're going in, it's sometimes hard and you miss those things.
Yeah, so they're there in one place, like it becomes obvious.
Absolutely. You could do all your researches. Permitted uses. That's live on our system right now. So just what's permitted. So if you're planning on maybe buying commercial as an example, and you want to know whether you can put a childcare centre on as an example, right?
Yeah. Okay. So what product or what do people mainly use? What's the most popular search tool on your software?
Look, at the end of the day, a sales history report is a no-brainer. You need to know what's sold in that suburb, because you can always gauge the market of what it's going to do by just listening to the news, right? You know that properties are going down or properties are going up or they're flatlining. So if you know what's sold and you do a sales history report, that's the first thing I would do when I'm looking at a suburb. The second part is that when I identify a property, I want to see the data points within that property. So that's, and I mentioned photos, I mentioned the sales history on that individual. Was it marketed? Who owns it? When? How long? The tenure? How long have they owned it? Because when you're negotiating, for instance, how long it's been on the market, how long that owner's owned it, will help you in your negotiations, right? Because if they've only held for a short time, they're probably in trouble and they're not going to be able to take offers, right? If they've held it for 15 years, whether it's 100,000 more or less, they'll probably take the deal, right?
I was looking at, I totally agree. Look, the data doesn't tell fibs. I was looking at a property with one of my students last night. We were taking a deep dive into a property up the coast. It had been on the market almost consistently since 2014.
Wow.
Massive red flag.
What is going on? Bikies in next door, right?
We need to find out why. And if this is a bargain, it's not one that you'd run away or like run into and buy straight away without finding out the reasons behind that. So that kind of data is priceless.
I helped a friend of mine and they said, this is cheap. I don't know why. And we looked at the street, and can you guess what the problem was? It was all owned by Housing Commission.
Yeah, which can affect your price.
which can affect your price. No matter what you think about public housing, right? It does affect your price, right? And so it's really interesting how would you possibly find that out without that type of data point, and being able to walk down a street and get those data points, you know? And that brings you to the third really important data point, which is the maps.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we really stand out. We have zoning overlays on the maps. We spoke about the splitter blocks. We spoke about the frontage searches, but that's all map-based as well. You know, things like contour lines, all that standard stuff is there in the maps, but some of those little sweet points of zoning and frontage searches and things like that are really where it makes a difference for investors.
Yeah, I agree. That is a time saver in itself. I've been on your software and had a really good look around, and just to know those zonings and have them there on that same page is a lot better than jumping off one site, jumping
exactly
into the council, having a look at their maps. So yeah, it's very, very useful.
I think the important parts of these data points is that it allows you said it earlier, it allows you to discount properties, allows you to bring them in, get your shortlist going, and then actually do that deep dive at your desk without, you know, going from here to here and here and here, and then actually produce. Now, a lot of the investment packages don't include the CMA that real estate agents use.
Yes.
So CMA stands for comparable market analysis. And there's another data point which is really important to understand, which is the AVM, the automatic valuation model, my apologies. Yeah. So those two components put together sort of gives you that estimate. Now, we know that those algorithms get it wrong sometimes, but you know, it's like when you're cold reading, you remember the hits and forget the misses. AVMs are the other way around. They remember the misses and forget how many times they actually get it right. Yeah. Yeah. And are right smack in that 10% range. So as you are narrowing down onto a property, what you want to do is run those estimates. And we have a beautiful CMA that's included in our investment package, which allows you to look and say, well, no, that property is better or worse than the target property I'm trying to buy. And it actually adjusts the AVM on the fly to see where it sits on that value chain. You know, so sometimes the AVMs give you a range, and the range can be wide for usually one reason. There's not a lot of sales in the suburb. The suburb has variations in the highs and lows of, say, a 3-bedroom house. Sometimes the house on the hill that's been fully renovated versus the house near the rail, 3 bedrooms. They're both 3 bedrooms, and there's this huge range. So what this allows you to do is slide up and down and really get a focus of where it's going to be. I'm not sure whether you saw the Four Corners episode the other night.
There's been a lot of talk about it, and a husband and I, we were trying to find it last night to go and have a watch of it. But yeah, was there any surprises? I'm not sure.
No, it was all about underquoting, and some jurisdictions have been right on top of underquoting. And I think Queensland's one of those jurisdictions that have been really quite tough, and same with Victoria, whereas they picked on New South Wales, a bit of Queensland and some South Australians. But essentially, that the underquoting problem is a problem for investors, right? They've got all their gear, they do all their work, they're talking to an agent, they think they're in the price range. So this AVM and this CMA, the comparable market analysis, with that ability to slide that up and down, allows them to get a good picture and say, well, hang on a second, how can the agent be telling me this when I've just got my 10 comparables here? And I know this property's better, and that one's worse, and I'm around this price. It's gold. It just gives them that ability to, again, it's an anchor point for negotiation, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. We should not be figuring out the value of a property based on what a real estate agent is telling us. They're in the game. They're in the game of selling property. Like, that's their job, and that's okay. I respect their game. We deal with real estate agents all the time.
Oh,
As
yeah,
Renovate,
absolutely.
right? That's part of what we do. And that is their game. But their game is to sell property. That is their motivation. They have to sell for as much as they can on behalf of the vendor. That's what's expected of them. And when you're the vendor, you want them to do the same for you. So as a buyer, you cannot, it's crazy if you allow the real estate agent to tell you what they think that property is worth. That's and what you should be buying it for. You need to do your own research.
Absolutely. And we come back to that MPG platform that's all in one place, being able to deep dive on the individual property and then look at the suburb, and depending on where you are in that purchase cycle, that days on market as an example are really important, because we know if the days are long, the vendor
why?
Why, pricing usually.
Yeah.
Right. It's usually a price.
Pricing or problem. That's the two P's, pricing or a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right.
But definitely worth investigating, because both can be maybe fixed. Perhaps someone's had the pricing too high for a long time, and then they've eventually worn tired of that. Maybe there's a problem that you can fix, and you can just tuck it into your budget.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Walking away. It's definitely worth investigating. What's coming to national property data that's exciting you right now? Is there any more additions coming to what you already offer?
Yeah, I think I spoke about those climate change data points. I spoke about the lot search. That's coming in the short term. For us, it's all about, look, we see life cycles of property, and there's a lot of work being done in AI in regard to understanding the life cycles and surfacing those sorts of data. And I'm working with some of the development schools to look at how we can surface properties before they come on the market. Right. So
AI is changing everything.
Oh my God. I'm using it. I'm on board. I'm always on the bleeding edge of technology.
Me too.
Right? So if you don't,
I just passed a little test using AI.
Oh wow.
That's called cheating. Am I going to fail? Like, it's changed everything. It's seriously exciting, and it's seriously worrying all at the same time.
At the same time, I went to an investor conference, and they spoke about, and Google was speaking. They were talking about their new product called Bard, and it was not only AI but language models and image models.
I know. I've been looking into it. For a business owner, if you're not up to date with what's happening in AI, you're going to get left behind very, very fast.
So an example of, and staying on subject on the data, is that what we're finding now is, as the market's flattening out a little bit, the unimproved capital values going up and prices aren't following. So you're getting the UCV going up by 30%, with values of property only going up by about 5%, right? So, and I'm talking about an article that how does an agent have a conversation with their investors to say, turn one key to many keys, right? As an example of that, right? And I cheated and used chat GPT just to formulate my ideas, and I just went, well, my job's done.
Yeah. Look, AI is a bit of a game changer. But,
so that's what I see coming, where we're just predictive tools for not only agents, but more so for developers and for investors to say, well, look, in this suburb, what type of people are going to be selling in the next 2 or 3 years? What type of properties? And surface the actual properties that you might drop a letter into, as an example, dear homeowner.
I tell you what I love. I love the fact that you guys come from a history. You have all the history of property research, like of serious property research and data, and yet you're basically a reasonably newly formed group that's come together, and everyone's enthusiasm is about introducing and being the best and introducing new things and staying on top of it and embracing new technologies is right up there. So that's very, very exciting, because in the property space, you can use some tools that just get a bit old and tired.
Yep. Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Look, at the end of the day, you've got those core tools, and they're necessary, right? They're absolutely necessary. And then it's what helps you and gives you an edge to get that property over the line. In your game, it's actually the hardest part is buying. That's what I found in my experience, was selecting and buying. The renovation side is always fun. Yeah, you deal with builders that give you a pain, but the rest of it's fun. It's all about that initial purchase, right? Am I doing the right thing or not? And I think if it gives you confidence to get in and buy, and you know you're buying at the right time, it just moves you on and lets you transact more often, right?
Oh, confidence is everything, and that lets you transact more often. And when you're transacting more often and you're doing well out of each property, that allows you to continue as well. Like, it is important that everybody, in particularly the renovation space, get things right. Like, you want to make money, you don't want to lose money. You want your ability to borrow funds based on you making money off each property. That, it's important for momentum. Okay.
Yeah, so you mentioned our company. Sorry, I interrupted. Sorry, Belinda.
No, that's all right. I was going to say. That means
we're going together. We'll have to cut that piece out.
so that's all right. We'll leave it in. That your data then, for us to go and find properties, the right properties in good areas, and do all the research around that, and buy properties hopefully at market or under market value, preferably, but then also have a look at the other properties in that same location that are highly renovated, and being able to have a look at the picture in the same place and see what kinds of renovation people have done. Like, how much have they renovated that property? What colours are they? Where have they spent their money? It's very easy to get good at judging what property is the right one to move ahead on, and then you can be very, very confident moving forward.
We've got a really nice button that links out to the portal. Yeah. So we're talking about just efficiency. So when you bring a property up, you think, all right, this is my aspiration for this property.
Yes.
Right. And so you can link out and see what they're advertising for. You can deeper dive on the photos, see what the agent's saying about it. Right. So it's just another quick tool. Link out, off you go, come back, which just saves time. It gives you more insights. I think they're the very important things, I was talking about, when I interrupted you, and my apologies for that, but also the people here at MPG are really important. We're all here. We've got this beautiful synergy of working with three core property professionals. And the first one are obviously real estate agents. So we're talking to a lot of real estate agents and getting feedback from them. But then we have the valuers, and then we have, I put you all in one bucket, and I shouldn't, but developers, investors, and renovators, right? It's all of that. And look, it's all about wealth creation, of course, but it's not just that, right? Yes. It's not that. Your property professionals, you're interested, and off you go. So we get these three things, and most of like, for instance, our senior trainer Karen does so many property schools and understands that cycle that we've been talking about today as well. So as people come on, they get some nice one-on-one training. We've got the videos, and they really can get up to speed on how they do their research quite quickly.
Yeah. Fantastic. Is there anything else, like, is there any other support or resources that you'd like to mention that National Property Group has to offer in their data?
Sure. I think we often just sit in real estate residential.
Yes.
And often people forget that the data is across the board with for commercial as well.
Yeah.
Now we have commercial property. So if you're looking at buying a shop or an office or an industrial unit, you'll be able to filter on that and do those things. But we're joining up with a company called Aerolytics, and they do all the analysis on commercial property. So eventually, when you bring up a property, you'll be able to see the median rents for commercial, which often is really hard to get.
That is hard.
Really hard to get.
Yeah.
So I think that's they're the things that I see in the next quarter, where not only is in our roadmap, I'm seeing the designs, I'm seeing the data points already starting to bake in our systems, in our back end systems. So I'm really excited for that to come out.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me today, Joe.
Belinda, it's been a pleasure.
For everyone, don't forget, if you want to look up this property software, National Property Group, website is nationalpropertygroup.com.au, and there's a little tab right at the top that says data, and you can go and you can have a look at the software that we're just talking about throughout this podcast.
And I think we're going to have a nice special code for your clients.
Yeah. Okay. So with that being said, in the comments below will be a link that you can actually go directly to that page.
We'll give them a great pricing just for you, Belinda.
Special. We're both special, Joe.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Cheers.